Okay, let's see if the music works when the in-app message appears. Yeah! So it's that time of year where everyone is doing end-of-year review campaigns. Spotify is clearly one of the leaders in the field with their Wrap that everyone hangs out for, but there's some other great ones from companies like Strava, Nintendo, Duolingo, Canva, and many, many more. And I bet just quietly you're hoping to get in on the action. If not this year, get ready for next year. Am I right? It's okay. You can lean in and whisper it. It's okay. Well, I got you, because today I'm going to show you a simple year in review campaign you can set up as a Braze in-app message. It has motion, a carousel, and I'll even show you how to add music to it, even though Braze won't let you upload music. But more on that in a bit. Over to Braze. So first you're going to need an in-app message. Be sure to choose traditional editor, then web, mobile, or both. I'm going to choose web because that's what I'm working on today, but I've made this code responsive so it should work in any format you choose. Now from the drop down, choose custom code. Hey, Alyssa, I see you freaking out over there because you don't know how to write custom code. Don't worry, I've already written it for you. Come with me. If you go to the link that's on your screen, which you'll also find in the description, you'll find two different versions of the code. One that has everything in a single file called full code, and one that has the HTML and the JavaScript split out in case you need it like that. I need the version that is split apart as our security rules won't allow JavaScript inline in the HTML. But let's assume yours is okay for today. Go into the full code folder, click Braze wrapped HTML, and you should see all the code. Click the copy button in the top right corner, and it should say copied, and now go back to Braze. In the custom HTML box in Braze, click paste and ta-da! You should see a working-ish version of the code. If for some reason the text appears a bit off-center, I don't know why it sometimes appears like that in Braze, but it works in real life. Sometimes refreshing the page brings that back to the center in the preview window. This code is naturally a bit easier to work with inside a code editor, but today I'm going to do it in Braze to show you that that's totally possible. Okay, so I've done my best to try and make a few comments through the code to make it easy for everyone to change it. Even you, Alyssa. First one is the background gradient. You can change these three values to whatever suits your brand's colors using hex codes. For example, we might change this first one to 06D6A0. This is the hex code for a version of green. The second one to a code for something like mustard. And the third one to a code for sort of hot pink. And you'll see that the gradient colors in the background change. If you're just after some cool color ideas, check out Cooler's trending palettes. I'll put a link in the description below. The 45-degree value here changes the angle of the gradient. So for example, if we change that to 90, it does this. Moving on to the animation line, you can change the speed, the easing of the animation, and the looping, but personally I'd just play with the speed if you were going to change anything. Let's change the speed from 10 seconds to 2 seconds, and you can see that it loops in 2 seconds now. If I make it 20, it takes 20 seconds to loop. I found 10 seconds to be pretty good, but go to town with whatever works for your campaign. Next, you will see dialogue : backdrop. This is actually to change the color behind the modal that covers the rest of the screen, not the dialogue itself. The point too here is how transparent that is. The next main one to play with is text overlay. Here you can change the font and the text color. This uses standard web fonts and is currently set to a standard sans font. Let me know in the comments if you don't know how to change this to something more custom, and I'm happy to help you out. Probably the most important thing here is changing the text color. For example, let's do 000000, which is black. It's already a little bit easier to see than the white was. Okay, now for one of the bits you've probably been waiting for, how to update the text in the carousel, and then I'll do the music last. You'll see why when I do. So each line of text that you can change is in between these P tags in black. In between the first P tags, I've written "you created," then our project's custom attribute, so it pulls in the number of projects, then projects this year. If I test that for myself, you can see it says 3 projects. This would update depending on how many projects the user had created. You'll notice that each of these blocks just repeats, but what is important is that they are all inside a big block called, I'm saying Siema, but I think it's Siema, which is a Polish word for hello. This is what makes the carousel work. Siema is the code that actually runs the carousel, and I'll touch on that in a bit. You can edit all the text and custom attributes to suit your needs. Just don't remove any of the other code from these blocks. If you want less pages in the carousel, just delete a block from the div of the Siema container to the closing div of the same container. For example, I'll highlight the top div container and delete it. Now you can see that the carousel starts from what was the second block. Alternatively, you can add more pages by just copying and pasting an entire new block. Let me copy this first block and paste it in, and I'll update the text. So I copy the block, insert it above the previous one, but inside the schema block, and I'll make the text obvious. Now that block is first and will be the first page inside the loop. You can now edit the text however you like, add custom attributes. I'm pretty sure Liquid will work in here as well. Just play around and see what is possible. If you know how to add image tags in HTML, you can insert them in each of the blocks, but I've just kept it simple for today. Now, just quickly going over the rest of the code, there is a script here that runs the schema carousel code. It's a great little bit of code for creating very lightweight carousels. It even includes touch gestures, which you can see here when I drag it back and forth with the mouse. Schema's a little bit old, but it works great. And what's even better is Braze even has a version of it already uploaded to their server that I've linked to in this code. There's no need to change this link, it will just work. Below that, in line, you can see here is the JavaScript that actually runs the carousel. I personally wouldn't touch much here, but if you want to play around with it, I would start with this 6,000 figure. This is how many milliseconds it waits before changing to the next slide. If I make this 1,000, for example, that equals 1 second, and you can see it moves quicker. If I make it 10,000, it means 10 seconds and it moves a lot slower. If you're also feeling keen, you can also adjust the schema duration, which is how quick it transitions between the slides. Let's make this number 500, which is half a second, 2000, which is 2 seconds. You'll now see when it transitions, it moves very slowly between slides. You can even make it something like 100 and you'll see it moves very rapidly. 500 is a nice smooth default, but feel free to go to town. Oh, and as I mentioned before, the in-app message sizing should be responsive, so you shouldn't need to change any of that. But what about the music, you ask? Okay, well, I left this till last because it's a little riskier and a little more internet speed dependent, but I think it's a really cool add-on if it can work. So here, right near the top of the body part of the HTML, you can see there's these two audio tags. Now you can't upload audio into Braze. Well, at least I couldn't figure out a hack. Let me know in the comments if you have. And I even tried embedding audio inside an image and uploading an image file, but that just did not work. But I discovered you can pull in audio from another server when your in-app message shows by putting a link in here. I've added an example song from a site called SoundHelix, which is a public random music generator. So when the in-app message opens, it pulls in this song. Thankfully, since I've added the Braze bridge close message down here, the music shuts off when you close the in-app message. This was lucky because with my testing outside of Braze, the music would continue playing even after the message was closed, which is always a risk with these sorts of things. It's important that you leave the autoplay tag here so it plays immediately, and you have to add the mute tag, as modern browsers have rules about muting content when it shows so it doesn't blast users. Modern browsers will actually check that this mute tag is there. Amazingly though, so far I've had no browser actually mute the music when the message is shown, but always assume there is a chance that the audio will get muted, so don't put anything important in the audio section. If you aren't worried about download speeds or audio getting muted, I would play around with this link and just see what sort of music you can add to your in-app message when it shows. And if you don't want music at all, it's very simple. You just highlight the block of code between the two audio tags and hit delete. The rest of the message will work perfectly fine without it. And all that's left to do now is test the message again. Ugh, so good. And that's about it. It's a touch more complex than a few things I've shown you in the past, but I feel like there's a lot of value in this and you can do this. You can build this. If you got some value from this video, be sure to smash the like button. It does a lot for this channel, and hit subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. Can't wait to see all the end of year reviews that you guys build. And remember, until next time, it's okay to have fun when you're building stuff.